everyone. Welcome to WD Carousel Podcast. My name's Ian.
And I'm Crystal.
And we're going to talk about a ride, which we have not done for a little bit now. Again.
Yeah, it's been a couple months, I believe.
We're trying to get that locked into a schedule. We'll get there. But before we dig into more of that, we're going to have to talk about our sponsor, Jenny.
Yeah, so Jenny is a Disney travel planner. And what that means is she is going to help you basically figure out and navigate the craziness that is a Disney vacation for free,
Yes.
which is good. She'll be able to help you with navigating tickets and deals and fast passes and dining reservations and everything, and she's fabulous. So if you want someone to be your brain for you instead of you trying to get a headache doing all of this, check her out.
Yes. And so if you like us, she's basically like us. That's kind of the best way I describe her. We end up chatting with her
Very
longer
similar
than
personalities.
Yes. So she's a lot of fun. So follow Sea Witch Adventures on Instagram at seawitch.adventures to find out more and get in touch with her.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So on to the
ride
show.
of the day.
On to the show.
On to the show. We are talking about Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which I temporarily forgot the name of for about 3 seconds.
It's
but
okay, you caught up.
I got there.
You're good.
So, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is another one of those rides that is in not all but most of the different locations.
It's in four.
It's in four.
Four of the six parks.
Four of the six parks. So it's
Or not parks, but you get what I'm saying.
property
Locations.
areas. Exactly. So it's one that is a little bit more recent. Even
Shockingly.
Yeah, it's I mean, I wouldn't call it new. Like, it's not like Rock and Roller Coaster new where it was like 2003 or whatever, but it's in terms of like the rides go, even in Disneyland, it was still a little bit earlier.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about Big Thunder Mountain, a lot of people feel like it's connected to Walt because of Walt's connection to Frontierland and,
Right.
you know, the moving to the West and cowboys.
It feels,
and
very much his world, but honestly, it kind of, and we'll get into that, but it basically opened in Disneyland and Magic Kingdom in a very similar time frame to each other.
Yeah.
They were both being constructed at the same time. In fact, Magic Kingdoms was actually completed first, but Disneyland actually opened before the Magic Kingdom one in 1979, followed by the Magic Kingdom version in 1980.
Interesting. I did not know that
So
fact.
it's super goofy, and I couldn't figure out exactly why they did that, but who knows. So Tokyo...
Well, I think I have an idea, but we'll talk about that a little
later.
bit.
Yeah. So in 1987, they opened it in Tokyo, and then in 92, it opened with Disneyland Paris. Mm-hmm. Or Euro Disney.
Euro Disney!
Good time. Kooky times. And there's a little bit something special with the Paris one, but we'll, again, get back to that in a minute.
So every one of these has a general storyline that they follow. Now, depending on what location you're at, they might differ a little bit regarding the specifics, but it's kind of like, oh, look, they found gold in a mountain. Then all of a sudden they built this little town,
Right.
and then a natural disaster or curse happened that, you know, caused this big issue, and now there's these possessed trains still running around the mountain through all of these, you know,
crazy mine shafts and stuff, and for whatever reason we are getting on them. I haven't quite gotten to that point, but
it's kind of Haunted Mansion-y. You're like, you're gonna hang out with these like ghost trains.
Ghost trains, yeah, and it's very interesting in that way. It has a very unique feel, even though it's a roller coaster. So before we get into like the ride experience, it was the actual ride itself, the way it was built out and stuff for the two first ones, the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland version. It was all designed by,
created by,
Tony Baxter and Bill Watkins. That was the actual like build kind of more architectural aspects of it and building out the actual concept that went on to be the thing.
But the originating concept came from Tony Baxter and Mark Davis, where they had this idea that they were going to build this Frontierland sort of pavilion,
right?
Which makes me think very much Disney Sea over in Tokyo, where they have one concept and then inside of it they had multiple attractions and things you could do. Right. But then it was getting so expensive with Pirates of the Caribbean at that point in time that they put the kibosh on having this whole like pavilion of frontier world that they were creating and narrowed it down to just the one attraction.
Right.
And that's where I was going to get into, I think, the reason why they pushed Magic Kingdoms back was because they were working on Space Mountain, and that's why it was held back for a year, because Space Mountain, if you remember from our coverage of that one, opened up at Magic Kingdom first,
yes,
and then went to Disneyland, so it was kind of a flippy-floppy there.
Yeah, a little bit of a flippy-floppy.
But yeah, the Western River Expedition was their big gargantuan title that would have gone with it.
Which was interesting because that ties into something that they did later in Disneyland Paris, which again is Tony Baxter comes back because he has a large influence in Disneyland Paris, and he basically brought it back, kind of. They renamed it. It was called Thunder Mesa, which was an interesting concept because they took that pavilion and they added an overarching story. And then they also added the Haunted Mansion to it. Yeah,
they added the Haunted Mansion, and then isn't there a little connection to Pirates as well, or am I just brain farting?
I feel like that's not connected, but I don't have that information off the top of my head. The idea was...
I know there's this whole story in that land area.
All of those things are connected. So we went over this a little bit in our The Haunted Mansions episode, and... talking a little about
first episodes.
Yeah, it's like 3 or something, 3 or 4. And it really goes in, the way they handle it is that it really is all-encompassing. This one world is consistently connected from the Haunted Mansion to the...
Yeah, isn't the, like, owner of the gold mines the actual owner of the mansion?
Right.
And so when, at that point in time, I think it was a curse that happened.
Yes, they built... He was told... Again, this is something I don't know for sure, but as I recall...
Trying to remember.
It was
We should have researched it.
We should have researched this aspect, but we just plowed in anyway. He was told not to build on top of the Indian burial mounds, but he did anyway, and then all sorts of things happened. And then it caused problems in the house, and it caused problems in the mine itself. So the Runaway Trains curse.
I know that Tokyo and Magic Kingdom are pretty much identical.
Yeah.
And then the Disneyland version is slightly different. I think like one of them's earthquake, one of them is flood, and one of them's tsunami.
Fair enough.
But I'll let you use your brain to figure out which one's going to be which. But yeah.
And it was at the time it was a pioneering ride in the way that it was built. It was one of the first to use CAD, computer design, so it was one of the precursor to like Autodesk Inventor and all that kind of stuff. They did AutoCAD, and so they were able to get very intricate with the way it was built because they were able to calculate
a lot
all
smoother ride, and that was probably a benefit for them putting the ride on hold for a little bit while they were trying to work on Pirates and Space Mountain a bit.
Right.
Another interesting thing about this roller coaster, unlike almost every other roller coaster at the time, and I think in the future, is that they actually built the rock first and then laid the rails for the roller coaster on top instead of building the structure of the roller coaster and then building the scenery around it.
Right. And it
gives it more organic of a feel.
It definitely, after you told me that the first time, it made a lot of sense. Because the way that the ride functions, it really does feel like you're on like a minecart in an existing space. So the fact they built it like that actually makes a lot of sense. Which is conversely to Expedition Everest, which is built the other way, where they built this ride structure. They actually built that ride together. So the ride structure and the scenery around it was all built in one big superstructure together.
Which will be in a future episode, I'm sure.
Future episode. I just winked. Sorry. You can't see that. So let's talk a little about the ride experience.
It's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
So I know you talked about this before as one of the only roller coasters you'll go on. And that's mostly, it's not super big on drops.
Correct. So my first ride experience with Thunder Mountain. My mother had taken me on it when I was younger. I'm going to say maybe 12, 11, something like that. And at that point in time, I was already foot down about roller coasters. Don't like them, don't like them, don't like them. And she was like, it's a train. And I was like, okay. And it was a really fast train. And I like speeds and I like banking, but I don't do drops. So I was like, woo, I love this train. Let's go back on the train. Let's go back on the train. It was only after she was like, no, it was a roller coaster. I was like, no, it was a train. There was an engine in the front. And I didn't do any drops. It was the train.
Yeah. So like you said, it's basically banking, speed, and any drops that it has are very fast and brief.
Yeah, they're little bouncy ones.
Yeah, they kind of make you go, woo! Like they're kind of just
kitty hills or
something.
No?
There's a name for that. Yeah, they're very popular. There's a lot of the same stuff you would see in an old wooden coaster, the little rolly things and banking, and so it's fun. And the thing that you get from it a lot is you feel like you're going really fast because you're going through all this scenery, and so you're flying through all this stuff. You're in the mine. You're outside. You've got a really rich visual experience.
Oh yeah.
You go by, you get like sulfur smell. They make all of that really, really
in the potent. Disneyland one. There's a goat that you go by.
Yep. Haven't done that one, but one day.
And I know that the Disney World one, and I think this might be in other ones as well, but there's a full-on like dinosaur skeleton popping out the side of the wall that you go under and through the rib cage.
Yes, it's one of the most like visually rich roller coaster experiences and most heavily themed in a way that's consistent. And this is something I've always kind of liked, especially about Disney rides, is when they put the effort into making it a seamless ride experience. You never are like, okay, now I'm getting in a roller coaster. Like, we had all this branding, like Rock and Roller Coaster is a big one for me that way, like where you are like have this whole branding and then you get into a roller coaster. Like, it's I get why they do it. But with this one, you're literally getting into a minecart. Like, it really feels very consistent.
And, at the end, you're going through the town that they're talking about. Now, a lot of people that go on this ride don't know the backstory, but you can tell visually that you're supposed to be in this startup little pioneer town.
Yeah.
And you get the feel. Now, the more you go on it and the more you know the history, you'll catch little details and you'll see little things, which is an amazing part of a Disney attraction because there aren't really any other theme parks that have such a thorough story that they do on a ride. Like, even to the point of I don't recall seeing it in
Florida?
Yeah, Magic Kingdom, but I believe in the Disneyland one, when you're in one of the lift hills, which is you're in the mine, you'll actually see the fuses, the light of the fuses following you up the shaft to be able to then explode, and then there is the boom.
Right.
Which we don't have, because there's no explosion when it comes to Magic Kingdoms.
They also do some very clever false stuff, like kind of like little trickery, visual trickery. So one of my favorite ones, especially when I was younger, one of the first times I did it, it totally blew me away that they had done that much effort. You're going up one of the lift hills, like you said, inside the mine, and you look at it, just keeps going. Like that lift hill just keeps going up and up and up, and then and then all of a sudden, whoop! You actually drop way sooner because they just made a fake.
They kept the tracks going.
Right, and then you actually drop before that, but the illusion makes it look like you're in this big thing, and then it kind of surprises you when you jump out.
Even if you're in the first car, you're not going to really see it because the engine is in front of you. That first initial cart is blocked from being able to see
down the it's a very well thought out, like there's not that many roller coasters that have like a haunted mansion level of like people paying attention to like the details while you're riding. Like, you're going fast, like you wouldn't expect to like have to do it, but they really do.
But there's a geyser.
And everything you look at is definitely put there for a reason. It's not just structural. It's like it's actually very, very, very interesting that way visually. That's
I would say it's my favorite roller coaster, but it's the only one that I really voluntarily go on.
As a person who goes on, I don't love like I know here we've got like the Wild thing, which is a roller coaster
Oh,
here.
I'm not going to even compare Minnesota roller coasters.
Yeah, well, I just don't like those like ones where it's just like, and the whole idea here is a giant drop. Like, I'm not here for like the 200-foot drop. That's not my deal. I don't have a specific problem with drops, and I'm okay with inversions. But even this one theoretically would be relatively tame compared to some others, and I still love that ride. I'll do it anytime, and especially at night. It's really amazing at night because they don't light it heavily, so only certain areas will get light. So it just has this really weird sensory deprivation.
Didn't you say at one point in time you'd been riding it when the fireworks went off?
That was actually Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but still, it would be an amazing one to be able to catch the fireworks on.
Yeah. You're going through and seeing it. It's a great one after dark. Absolutely.
And I will say for getting on the ride, this is one ADA wise where you will have to transfer and you do have to walk a little bit there, but if you are physically handicapped, they will let you come in the exit way. That way you don't have to go up and down and do all the climbing inside of there, which is good because, again, this ride was made prior to the ADA being a necessity.
Right.
And so you can get right in and they'll probably have you wait for a couple rounds before they actually put you on the train.
You're basically on the exit side and you'll just like get in from the opposite side is the main thing.
But they'll work with you for your physical limitations to be able to get you to still enjoy the ride as well.
As long as you can transfer.
Yeah.
Which it's a roller coaster, so you'd have to transfer anyway.
Now, they're going to have this whole thing in the beginning where they're talking about if you're wearing a hat and glasses, best remove them because the whipping around that you do on this ride is very intense. Where other ones do a little bit more of a slow...
Where they'll bank, so you get the positive G-forces, but they don't laterally throw you back and forth. This one, they absolutely have no fear of doing that. If you don't have
another butt in the seat next to you, you will slide over to one side and the other.
It's just a bench lap bar, 2 people across, and you will slide around. Yeah, can't remember who we were with one time on one of my trips. It was my friend, a friend of mine's sister was just like sitting alone, and she was going pew pew pew, like it
doesn't matter how hard you hold on either.
You are just gonna fly around. So you're not gonna come out, but you will fly around.
Little kids, just beware. Don't have them go into a car on their own if they're not going to be able to handle being whipped side to side.
Yeah, and I think that at a certain age, you'd like have to ride with somebody. I don't think they'll even let you do it.
Which is good.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting you mentioned that because it's actually one of the fun facts I found. So they ran there was a doctor, I think it was like a doctor or a urologist or somebody in Florida who discovered after like just random stuff, he discovered that people that had kidney stones that went on...
I heard this!
Yeah, that people with kidney stones that went on to Big Thunder Mountain would actually, like, pass the kidney stones after they went on it. And so it's to the point where he was, like, actually did a real research study with it.
Wasn't he, like, prescribing you to go on to Thunder Mountain?
He wrote something for, like a medical journal, and like he got approval from Disney to run experiments there, and figured it out. And it was 70% of the time, if you had one that didn't need to be operated on, but you hadn't passed it yet, if you wrote it 70% of the time, if you went once, you would pass it. One guy like had kidney stones 3 times. And every time we went on Big Thunder Mountain, he passed the kidney stone.
Now, I thought it was more than just one ride. So you had to go on it like twice or 3 times for it to be able to kick it through your system.
What I saw in the article I read was that it depended on what part of the train you were in.
Oh, that would make sense.
So I don't know. I didn't hear about a number of times. I think that it probably could. Mm-hmm. But yeah, basically they were like, if you went on it once... I think the experiment was that 70% of the time it would pass.
And this is also one of those roller coasters where the back is going to be the more intense ride.
Yeah, it'll whip you. The whippy thing is...
You have no choice of if your butt's going to go over here or over there.
You're just going to go everywhere. Yeah.
So if you want something that's a little bit more tame in regards to this ride, further up in the front will be better.
That's a good rule of thumb for most roller coasters.
Except for the ones that go backwards.
The ones that go backwards, then or in the middle. You know. I don't know what you're going to do, but... Okay. Either way, the other weird kind of goofy thing that I discovered about this was when they made Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, they used the sound of the ride as the mine carts. That was like their Foley sound effect.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, it's a roller coaster, but apparently it was the right noise for them, and they just used it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then now, of course, Disney owns a lot of that stuff. So there's all Lucasfilm. So
Hoot.
Anyway, yeah. So it's a pretty cool ride. It's very connected into like Disney's, the backbone of Disney's parks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a Walt original, but it's a Tony Baxter.
But
and he's one of my favorites in terms of always needing the story. It's been a ride that I've never missed anytime I've ever been.
It's another one of those rides that is a park exclusive. It's not from any, IP that already exists where they're trying to, grab onto that. And that's one of the things that park fans like yourself and I are very big into. It's having an original story that was created just for us to be able to get in there and experience it.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's always the most immersive stuff. It's always... It's the nostalgia. It's the thing that I always go back for. So
it's a must-do on a trip.
It's a must-do. And if you're a person who doesn't love roller coasters, especially the way we described, like you don't like the big sharp drops and inversions and stuff, this is one of those rides where, especially if you have a kid who can do like a barnstormer and wants to try something bigger, this is a really good step up.
Funny thing is I won't do barnstormer. Because in my brain, I could still see underneath those tracks versus this where my brain is convinced that it's on solid ground.
Oh.
And so I'm able to ride it because it's on solid ground the whole time.
That is true. That's weird. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it is. It's like on the ground of the mine floor thing the whole time.
And the reason I like this one more than Seven Dwarfs, even though Seven Dwarfs has the same thing, is Seven Dwarfs has drops.
Yeah, its drops are more intense.
Because they come down hills.
Yeah.
Versus this one, which banks around them.
Yeah. Also, it swings.
Yes. But anyways, that's another.
That's again.
That's another ride.
We'll talk about that later.
Cover.
But yeah, so there you go. That is the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I temporarily forgot the name again.
Well,
after all the time.
Some parks drop the railroad. Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah.
Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Right.
It is what it is.
And again, there's little local differences between each ride, but more or less they follow the same essential pattern. Mm-hmm. And especially the Disney World and Disneyland versions are basically carbon copies of each other in terms of
Tokyo
track layout.
No, well, Tokyo is an exact carbon copy to Magic Kingdom.
Yep. So, but the two U.S. parks are basically identical in terms of even not just their track layout, but their like decor.
Either way, you'll still love it. Doesn't matter.
It's a great
one. If you
one.
go to another park, you're still going to ride it because it's that much of a classic must-do.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a must-do. So, anyway, so that is That's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and
it could be a great Big Thunder Mountain.
Great Big Thunder Mountain Railroad,
shining at the light of every inversion. I don't know.
Yeah,
no inversions for
us. But anyway, yeah.
This has been WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And we hope you have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.